hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the fifth edition of Upstart series in Mumbai. We've actually done over 50 such sessions across India, and this is our fifth session in Mumbai. Now, if you're all wondering what is Upstart, so Upstart is a series of meetups for the startup community, and it is hosted by PayU. And PayU is one of the leading payment gateway services, the online payment services across India. We have over 3 lakh merchants across sectors like government utilities, telecom, airlines, SMB merchants, and of course the startup community. So today's topic is about sales for startups. Now, as entrepreneurs, you all know that you can have a great product, you can have a great idea, but as long as you don't have customers and you don't have sales, then I think pretty much everything else is futile. So for today's topic, we have four speakers. We have with us, the first speaker is Meenal Sinha, who is the founder and CEO at meetingsandoffices.com. And she will be talking about demystifying sales for startups. Our second speaker for today is Apurv Sood, and he's the global sales manager at WebEngage, and he will talk about the art of selling. Our third speaker for the day is Ajay, and he's a director at Zone Startups, and he will talk about Salaholics. Our last speaker for the day is Sahil Vaidya, who is the co-founder at Minimalist, and he will talk about content marketing for sales. Before we begin, a couple of announcements. We're actually doing a live webcast of this event. So we request you, if you want to share it with your network, if you want them to check this out, then please go to our Facebook page, which is Upstart and CodeUp, and the link will be available over there. Also, if you are live tweeting this event, then please use the hashtag Upstart and tag our handle Upstart and CodeUp. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I would like to invite Meenal to please come on stage. Oh, right.
So hi everybody. As she very kindly introduced me, I'm Meenal. They did ask me if I wanted to present from a deck, and then I thought if I had a deck and I conducted a workshop, the 3 hours would be much shorter and the other speakers wouldn't get a chance because once I get into the flow, there would be no stopping me. I have given her a warning to just tell me to stop it even today, even while without a deck. But I do have some pointers so that I know when to stop and let the other speakers begin their talk. So my introduction, as she said, I am the founder of meetingsandoffices.com. You must be wondering why is she here and what is meetingsandoffices.com and what gives her the right to come and talk to us like this. I'm no expert. Yeah, sorry. So I'm no expert, as I was saying. I'm here talking to you people to actually learn from you. So there's an ulterior motive why I said yes, I will speak to the audience. Every time we go out to speak to people, it's a give and take. We learn as much from you, from your questions, from interacting with you, as much as we are able to teach you. And that's one very important attribute of any good salesperson or any good business person, any good professional. Never stop learning. Never think you're such an expert that nobody can teach you anything. That's one thing that I would want to start with. My company, Meetings and Offices, is like the Airbnb of meeting rooms and office spaces. So pretty simply, places like this is what we aggregate. So if you're, for the end user, if you're looking for a meeting room, a conference room, or a private office, anywhere starting from 1 hour to long term, you can just come online, search, compare, book, pay, and then just go use the facility. That's what I do. My background, 2 decades, more than 2 decades in the corporate world. Management graduate, started with advertising, events, PR, spent a decade doing that. The last decade I spent in shared workspaces as the country head for the pioneer in shared workspace industry at a time in 1978 when shared economy was certainly not a term that was coined. and co-working hadn't been born then, but I've been in the industry for so long. That's why I started to branch out on my own in 2014 and start this venture. My venture is just around less than a year old, 7, 8 months old, the online platform. And that's the background. That is why uh, I can be presumptuous enough to stand here and try and share whatever knowledge I have accumulated over the years with you. So the topic for today was sales for startups. And I was wondering, why is sales for startups supposed to be any different from sales for anybody else? I don't think it's any different. Everybody's got to make a sale. All companies, all corporates at all levels have to make a sale. Startups more so. Why? Because as she was saying, if you don't make sales, if you're not looking at selling to a customer, if you don't have the customers, you will have to wind up very soon, which is not why we start up. And we have to remember that at every stage of our life, whatever is a professional qualification, whatever is the business we are in, we are all making a sale to somebody or the other. Even when you start as a child, you learn the art of negotiation with your parents. That is inherent in you. You might have learned certain other things during your education and in your specialization, but it is not that you are not a salesperson. For me, according to me, rather, um, all these startups need to remember that even as a bootstrap startup, when you are a very, very small team, just the co-founders, you cannot be picky and choosy saying that I need to hire a sales head, only then I can make sales. I know the product and I am doing the development. Somebody else needs to sell it for me. So fund me so that I get the money to hire a salesperson. No, you as an individual, you as the developer, you as the uh, innovator of the product or the person who thought of the product or the service are the most passionate about it. You are best suited to make that sale. You are, in fact, according to me, the most qualified person to make that sale. It doesn't matter what your background is. And trust me, it is all sales is something that is inherent in all of us. As I said, right from childhood, we are starting to negotiate. When we grow older, when we are parents, then in today's day and age, you can't just slap your child and tell him, do this because I'm telling you, I'm your mom. So you have to sell that thought to them. When you're in any role, when you're talking to your bosses, developing a product, you're talking to your colleagues, you're selling that concept to them. So as a startup, whether you're talking to an investor, whether you're talking to a customer, whether you're talking to a probable brand ambassador or an influencer, you are making a sale and there is no shying away from that fact. The most important thing that you have to remember is you are passionate about what you're doing. If you're not, please stop doing what you're doing right now. And please continue doing if you're doing it for your passion. And when you talk to people, when you try and convince them about the ability of your product and how good it is, that passion will come through. That's the best sales tool you can have. Now, if you will tell me as an attribute, what do you think a salesperson's most important attribute should be? That he should be able to complicate stuff, give jargon, what? Anybody? Confidence, yes. Awesome. Confidence भी नहीं है अगर, of course you have to be passionate about your product, but even if you're feeling a little nervous that day, if you listen to your customers, your confidence will fall in place. It will automatically come because you have understood the customer's problem and you are not just giving him a spiel. You are not just reading out of your sales pitch. You are explaining to the customer how you can help him, how you can help him sell his product, his service better, and make more money. A lot of people say, and a lot of companies do that, a lot of salespeople do that, lie through your teeth, just get the sale across. It's month end after all. We have targets, right? We have to meet them. That's not okay. Do not ever try to run behind money. My mantra is always build relationships. It's a longer term solution, but it's the only thing that will give you results over and over and over again. Making a sale is not just a one-day job. You need repeat customers. You need that customer to be your brand ambassador. I was just talking to a startup here who's working in the same, who was working out of the same workspace as me earlier. And he was saying, I didn't even know this company, Meenal. And some client was talking to another client in London who spoke to this client in China, and we've got this project. And I'm now looking at scaling up. That's how it works. You have to build brand ambassadors for yourself, and you cannot do that if you're only looking at following money. and just making a quick buck. That's not how it works. You have to build sticky relationships. You have to have conversations and not just a sales pitch. If you were talking to a customer, or just put yourself in their shoes, think when a salesperson is talking to you, if they started by where your last conversation was, or if it is a cold call, they know what was the last project your company did, or they understood your business very well and they started that conversation with that information and related the entire conversation to that bit. Would you react better? Do you think that would work better? So that is what is important. Building sticky relationships and having conversations and not just giving the spiel. And I am not saying do not train your people, do not have sales pitches. I am one great believer in training, and I hold training workshops myself on sales and personal grooming and presentation and other softer skills as well. And everybody in my own team has to go through the mandatory training process as well. That's very important. But please remember, your salespeople or anybody who's making the sale, whether it's you or somebody else, a colleague, it has to be tailor made to the person you're talking to. You have to customize it as you're talking to them, because as we discussed, listening is very important. When you listen to the customer, you're able to develop the right sales pitch for them, because then you can match their requirement, their actual requirement, with your product benefit. Again, I would like to give another example. When I started at Surf Corp in 2007, the flows were getting ready and all. We got them ready. Hyderabad was launched in 2008. And then my salesperson, she comes to me every few months and she says, "This inquiry was my first inquiry. I've been working on him. He's not saying no. He says he needs the product. I think he has a need. He's not buying it. What should I do?" I told her, keep persisting, keep showing him value. It took her 12 months to close that deal, but she closed that deal because she persisted, because she showed the client tremendous value time and again. So that's why follow-ups are very important. Just one call to the customer, "Arey nahi, ye to sunta nahi hai. Oh, he doesn't take my calls. Maybe he had a real problem." There are times when, of course, a lot of clients just stop taking your calls and stop answering emails. There are ways to tackle them. There are kind of emails that you can send to them so that you get a response. Make them feel guilty about not responding to you because you're just doing your job. And maybe they actually need that solution. Maybe temporarily the need is not there, or it has gone to their back burner. But if you think there is a real product need fit, then convince them to come back to you. So follow-ups is very important. And communication, the way you communicate to your people, to your clients, to your potential customers, to investors, or to anybody in the ecosystem, any touch points that you have, any stakeholders that you have, communication has to be professional at all times. I see a lot of startups these days writing to investor, "What's up, bro?" and "How you dude?" and just cold WhatsApping. That's not okay. It's okay for the younger generation to talk to each other, but not when you're talking to people in business, even if that guy is your age. If you're sitting in a business position, that's not how business conversations are held. You have to maintain the professional attitude. When you meet over a beer outside, it's all right if you're just letting your hair down, but not in conversations. So just this afternoon, I was discussing this point with my husband, and then one of our friends called, and he was like, "This guy was talking to me about sponsorships, and he's writing to me, bro this, bro that." I had to write back to him saying, "I'm much older for this bro stuff. Please call me by my name. Don't get to that level." So please maintain professional communication, and always remember there's a certain protocol to talking to people. Let's maintain that, because it shows how seriously you take yourself and your business. Not only how seriously you take them, but also reflects on you. And then people inevitably will always, whether you want to or not want to, people will always try and compare you. There will be competition. I don't think any of us is in a business where there's no competition. That would be a lovely world, but that doesn't happen. So when people talk to you about competition, yes, of course, we must stay calm and kill the competition, but that doesn't mean we berate the competition. That does not mean we say the competition doesn't exist or they're not worthy of our time. Just do not let them, the competition, become the hero of your conversation with that person. The hero has to be you. How do you become the hero of the conversation? How does your product or service become? If you lay out the values very clearly. And the value is not just having a superior product. The value is in what the customer benefits from that. That is very important. So one of the angel investors, very prominent ones in the field, he gives this example that there was a startup talking to him, giving him 10 minutes of spiel over 256-bit encryption. And he's a tech investor. So he was like, yeah, but what is in it for me? He was not interested. He almost got up from the table when one guy from the startup, one of the founders, realized what the problem is. And he said, let me explain this to you. 99.9% of the hackers will not be able to get through your site. They got the check. So that's the difference. They laid out the benefit clearly. That is very important. How am I doing for time? And again, I was just talking to one of my fellow speakers. Right from day one, even though you're startups, even though you're doing everything on your own, I know it's very daunting at times and it looks like it's totally not rewarding and what have we gotten ourselves into. But systems, processes, analytics, very important, especially for your sales. For everything it's important, but more so for sales, because if you do not have your CRMs in place, if you do not at least have an Excel with all your leads and the pipeline being built, keeping a vision on what your top lines and bottom lines are going to be, how you're going to build from that, how you're going to scale up is going to be very difficult. So please use tools. There are a lot of free tools available in the market, whatever suits you best, or at least do an Excel so that you know what are the leads coming in, what are the sources, because once you know what are the sources coming in, you can focus on the sources which are giving you the maximum leads, and there might be some way money is not being spent that wisely and you can do away with those, because you have to run these little experiments at the beginning which do not cost a lot, but which can ensure that you get great results. So do that. Uh, the two things that I feel sales tools which I feel are very important, but which I have come across a lot of startups feeling that, I'm an IIT graduate, I don't make cold calls. I've got 15 years of experience. This is not my job. I'm a techie. I will do my job. Get somebody else to do that. Pick up the damn phone, make a call. That's the only thing that works. There is no shame in trying to sell your product. Aren't you really confident about it? Aren't you really happy? You should be gloating about it and telling everybody you can find, even on the street. Please pick up the phone and make that call. Cold calling, when used effectively, is a very important tool. Make sure the person who you are talking to has been researched thoroughly, their company has been researched thoroughly. Make that cold call warm. That is when you will be happy making that call and the other person will not be banging the phone down on you, because you've understood what their company is, you've understood there's a real need that you are trying to solve, and let the conversation flow in a way that he feels he is taking that decision. Never tell them, never be like you're advocating this for them and you are recommending because you are the expert. No, he's the expert in his industry. He rightly believes he's the expert in his industry. He's been doing it for 20 years. He has a right to feel so. Let him believe that, and let him believe that you are only helping him in the journey to make his product, his company, his business better. So that is very important. The other thing very important is networking. I'm at this event, even at this event to network and to meet people. Again, networking is not something that will give you short-term immediate returns. It's not that you will come to one event and get an order for 1 crore and walk out. And after 5 events, if I have not got enough orders, then I'm not going to any more events. It doesn't work like that. And also the objective of networking. So let me ask you guys, what is the objective of networking and going to events? What do you think? What is it that you want to take home from these events? Yes? Learning from peers? You shut up. Connections? So what's the right way to make these connections? By upselling your product? Okay. Anybody else? People are already asleep. Guys, I'm the first speaker. I wasn't that boring, was I? Was I? Personal connect. Very good. Okay. So there are a lot of people who say, "Arre boss, मैं आज ये networking event में गया था, 100 कार्ड लेके आया." अरे यार, you don't even know what you're doing with those 100 cards. You've put it in your file folder and you've forgotten about them. That's not it. Make one friend. Make one friend. That's enough. Of course, if you're meeting 1,000 people, then make 5 friends. But otherwise, instead of collecting visiting cards, make friends. Make relationships that matter, because whether or not that person uses your service, he will recommend you to 10 others. I use it very effectively. What has after 20 years, of course it's very daunting to give up a job after 20 years and that cushy paycheck and everything and get into a startup world, but it's my relationships from those 20 years which are coming in handy today. I go to networking events and then I see there are these groups and social groups, not WhatsApp and all, but other stuff which is happening, business to business groups and all. If somebody needs a workspace, I don't even have to mention my name in the group because somebody else has already done it. Talk to me now. Most of my business, more than 80% of it is coming through referrals, because people tell people. If people know you, they trust you, they like you, they will talk about you. That is what we should focus on and not focus on collecting cards. I think that's about it. One more thing that I should just tell you guys. Uh, Everybody knows Jitendra Gupta? She does, of course. So the PayU head, who earlier was the head of Citrus before he got taken over. So we asked him once, Jitendra, what do you want to say to the startups? Very clear. धंधे पे ध्यान दो, phone उठाओ, बेचो, बाकी अपने आप हो जाएगा. I really think he really hit the nail on the head, because that's what matters. People, he himself, of course, had a tremendous journey and went through lots of ups and downs. And the end result is for everybody to see. But the mantra is becho. Sell. Do not be shy of selling yourself. Sales for startups, according to me, is different only in the way that everybody in the organization is a salesperson, because you truly passionately believe in your product. That's one quality that the founding team should have, and I'm sure all of you have. That's about it. Open for questions.
We'll take we'll take 3 questions, and if anyone has more questions, you can meet Meenal at the end of the session.
Can I ask 2 questions?
Ask one. I'm here. I'll talk to you later.
You told us about following up, but sometimes following up is embarrassing. I mean, it feels like spamming when you're sending them the same mail again and again, like every week.
Depends on the frequency of follow-ups. Depends on what you're writing in the email. So in the email or in the phone, I'm not saying follow up every hour. Do not send WhatsApps every 5 minutes,
Right.
or even thrice in a day. So do not do that. Yes, you have to be very, the balance has to be maintained while following up. But do not give up after one follow up. Deals close typically after sixth or seventh follow up.
My second question is, so you told us about cold calling. Uh, do you recommend approaching people on social media? And by social media, I don't mean LinkedIn. Like,
Okay, somebody's gonna kill me, but depends on your product, what the product is. For example, for my product and for a lot of products, Facebook is not the right media. And just even on LinkedIn, you don't send a request and then shoot out a mail. I just read it today, I think, just before coming here, that you connect on LinkedIn and the next moment is your sales pitch coming through. Dude, I don't even know you. And so that's not the right way. But connecting over LinkedIn, again, I have got clients, converted clients through LinkedIn. It's an amazing tool. Social media itself is an amazing tool, but you have to maintain that delicate balance and you have to approach it in the right manner. You have to first build that relationship that I spoke about. Let him believe that you have the capability for doing what you do and talking about that product. So when you build relationships, what's important is that that client should trust you so much that when they are trying to or thinking of doing business with some other company also, but in a related field, they will pick up the phone and talk to you. What's your name? Vineet. So Vineet, I was thinking of buying this. Do you think that company does a good work? What are the things that I should look for? That's the kind of trust you build with your customers. Welcome.
Do we have any more questions? No?
Thank you so much. You've been a great audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenal, for that amazing talk. I think we can move on to our next speaker. Since we have more people still coming in, I'll make a quick announcement to the people who've just come in. We have the puzzle sheet inside your brochure. I request you all to please fill it up. I will collect it after the second speaker. Yeah, that's about it. Now, moving on to our next speaker is Apurv Sood, who is the Global Sales Manager at WebEngage, and he will speak about the art of selling.
No one says 20. Hello. Hi, I'm Apurv. Um, Fair. So, Meenal's got a lot of experience, and I think she said really wise things. I don't have as much, but well, I'll try doing best what I can for you guys. Just to quickly introduce myself, I lead the sales team. I'm a salesman for WebEngage. WebEngage is a product-based company. It's a SaaS solution. It's a marketing automation system, and we sell this product in close to about 52 countries. We sell it to businesses. A lot of your marketing and product teams across the globe use our product. All right, that's what we do. I'm going to talk about the topic that you can see is art of selling. I'm a hardcore salesman and I'm going to stick to what I do. All right. So you see two things, right? You see a business card does not make you a salesperson. All right. Definitely it doesn't. Just because you have a title of salesman, that doesn't mean you're a good salesman. And second thing is always be closing. Um, just because you talk well, just because you communicate well, doesn't mean you're a good salesman. Sales is a lot about numbers, how you crunch numbers, how you close and move ahead and close, close, close. That's about it. How you build close. That's it, period. So don't misunderstand sales by saying that I have a good lingo, I have a good communication skills, and I'm a good salesman. I know salesmen who are not uh, really great speakers, but they're amazing at what they do. So yeah, they're two different things. So that's a small little cartoon of what people think about sales. That's not true. Uh, Quick context on what am I going to do. I'm gonna talk about selling from a B2B SaaS. Hello. Yeah. B2B SaaS sales, marketing automation, a product and a global product sort of a perspective. This is going to involve a lot of inbound sort of leads coming into you, which means that customers kind of write into you in terms of that we are interested in your product and we want to talk to you. That's the kind of scenario that I'm going to be talking about. And I'm going to keep it very, very focused. Try taking as much as you can. If you have more questions, you can come back at last. Um, okay, so just go down. Uh, I hope you guys understand software as a service. I hope you guys understand inbound and inbound leads or inside sales. Inside sales is basically when you sell a product sitting inside a company, inside the closed rooms of a company, and you talk to partners across the globe virtually over Skype, go to meeting, talk about the phone calls, and you try and sell and close deals. That's what inside sales is about. Uh, Okay. So I said that you have a great product. Assuming you have a great product, you have a sales team now. Uh, are you selling globally, right? People are writing into you. Like, people are leaving leads. People are saying that I want to talk to you. Why do you need to sell, man? You already have people talking to you, right? I'll tell you why. In spite of all of this, why you need to sell. That's why you need to sell. That's the cycle, That's what it takes to sell a product. That's what it takes. You have a lead coming in. There's an opportunity that you need to create. You have a proof of concept or trial that happens, you negotiate, you close, you get into legal billing documentation, and that's when you go ahead. All of this procedure, when somebody writes into you from a product standpoint, from a software standpoint, he's not just talking to you, he's talking to 4 or 5 more other people or more than that eventually. And he's doing his understanding of how your product looks like. Uh, does it fits his needs? what can you do with it, and so on and so forth. So he's not just talking to you in this whole cycle till the time he signs a check. There's a lot of these stages that you got to talk to him about, make him feel comfortable of what your product is, make him understand that whether your product can solve a problem or problem statement that he has in totality. So because of this cycle, and because of the kind of people that he talks to, you need to convince him that your product is the best fitment for him to buy. Hence, you need a good sales team to back you up with what you got to do. So for starters, you can't sell to everybody, period. All right? Don't try selling yourself or the product to everybody. What you need to realize is that the market is large. You need to analyze the market. You need to figure out who should I be talking to, right? Where should I sell? Why should I sell? And I need to also figure out my target market. Typically for a web engage, right, where we are, we sell to companies who have a annual revenue from 5 million US dollars to about 500 million US dollars. That's our TG. We focus there. We call ourselves mid-market solutions, and that's what we do. That's where we try and drill in customers. We try and close and try and make more money for our own company and for ourselves as well. In terms of knowing your competition, uh, once you figure out whom to sell to, it's very important to know what is the competition. When I say competition, it's just not important to know the products or the names that exist in the market. It's very, very important to also know and understand that what are the kind of uh, uh, features, you know, or what is the USP of the other products? What are the ticket sizes that they sell at? All of these details are very important, and you need to pass all of this to your sales team, right? Which means you need to do your research before you actually hire a sales team or get somebody to do it. So it's very important for you. Yep. All right. So now that's one of the most important pieces, right? You're a startup, you have limited money, and you have 1,000 places to burn, right? You got to figure out, where do I do the burn? Which means, do I actually go on to a direct sales setup, or do I do an inside sales? Direct can be an outside sales, which means that you have a team. And considering you have limited resources, which means that you can't put globally teams in every city, every country, right? But you do want to sell globally, right? You wanna, because there's no point just selling in one geographical location. If you want to create a business for yourself and what you're doing, you need to do it globally, period. That's what aspirations need to be. So when you're selling this, you know, direct means that, so when you figure out whether you want to sell direct selling or you want to do inside sales, first you need to figure out how much cash do you have, what is the kind of product that you have, how much, what are the kind of touch points that you need to have. Do we actually need to go and sit in somebody's office to actually sell it? If I was selling to government, maybe sitting in inside sales offices is not going to work out. But if I'm selling to businesses, am I selling to mid market pieces? So figuring out who are we selling to, basis that, taking a call whether we need direct selling people or not. In case of us, we're a mid-market company, and we sell to via an inside sales pieces, and we sell in close to about 52 countries. We have two offices, one is in Mumbai and one is the US, and that's what we do. And we've been able to marginally do it well. Uh, Last piece that I have around things is, don't sell cheap, right? And that's very important, because if you think your product is good, and and there's a market for it, which means you've analyzed the market, you've figured out there's a requirement, you're getting good feedback about the product. Please don't sell cheap. Don't try and undercut prices aggressively. Be patient. Try sell at the right product at the right price. You'll eventually figure out what's the right pricing fitment as well. And when you do, ensure you demand at least 25 to 30% of delta over other competition. That's what you got to do. If you're not doing that, period, you're never going to make up money. You're going to shut shops and go home and sleep night. So a couple of hygiene factors, right? You got to hire a motivated sales team and a skilled sales team when you get in. And when I mean skilled, for example, WebEngage, it's a product-based tech company. So you got to at least have engineers who are salesmen because they can understand decent bit of technology. And as a startup, you don't have resources to actually have training modules. So it's very important to try and understand that a basic skill set that you got to get a salesman in with. Achievable targets. So what people believe is that, I have $100 target that I have to make up from the company per sales rep perspective. And what we do essentially is that you give the sales guy 100% target. What you need to realize is, no, that's not how it works out. You make 80% of the targets. So if you have $100 bill that a salesman should generate over a month, you got to break it down to 80. 80 is going to be his 100% target for him. If he overachieves that, you got to bill him for, you got to give him money or whatever you want to motivate him with. So that's what it's got to be. So your 100% of your your top line number needs to be broken down into 80% rule. That's what it is all about. Pipeline creation, now that you have targets in place and you got to do something, you got to sell, you got to make top line numbers, you got to grow. So you need to break it down to pipeline creation, which means that you have to have right sort of leads coming in terms of the numbers of volumes of lead, the quality of the lead, and the kind of ticket sizes it comes at. If I got to get in the lead and I have 100 leads coming in, my product sells for $500, and the lead that comes in cannot pay more than $200, that's not a valid lead for me. So either I bring down my ticket sizes or I actually look for better leads, because you just can't close because you have something coming in. So you got to figure out the strategy, right? It takes a while to do that, but that's very important. Yeah. So that's a pretty cool thing. So I like this method called closed eye method. What I do with my team is that, when we sell products, they're dashboards, right? And you when before you sell the product, I ask my team, and when I train them and before I actually get them into the markets, what I essentially tell them is that close your eyes and just visualize the product. And I ask them the flows for the product, like which is where would he go to figure out something on the dashboard. I think if you don't know your product in and out, you can't really sell. So you need to know what you're selling first yourself. That's very, very, very important. Uh, Change management, as startups, we get in doing something and we end up doing something else. That's always that happens. It happens in the B2B scenarios. It happens in B2C ones. So what you need to figure out is, if you're pivoting and you have a core team to yourself, you're a co-founder, you need to realize that not necessarily everybody adapts at the same pace as you, because you're visionary, you are faster. You have a team which is going to be behind you, and who's trying to, you're leading them, right? So you need to make them aware of the kind of change that's happening. So which means that you need to figure out what are the roadblocks, help them understand what the roadblocks are, make them aware of the product updates, make them aware of what those product updates actually mean. If that's not happening, the guy is never going to be able to sell, because he doesn't even know what you're doing, what you're building. So that's going to be a big sort of a big difference in what you're doing versus what they think. So to avoid that, it's very, very important in the dynamic system that exists from a change management perspective, ensure that you communicate well with your team. Uh, Acknowledge success, please. Please celebrate small things. It really matters. It's very important for a team morale. Sales team, again, coming from change management, vision, mission, strategic goals. Half of the people that I know and half of the startups that I know, their sales teams don't even know what the founder's going to try and achieve. They don't even know. Why do you got to do 5 million, man? Why do you got to do $10 million in revenue? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even have a vision to that. So if you have a vision, tell me what it is. Break it down for me. Tell me how you're going to achieve it. I just can't believe it because just you give me a number of 10 million. So it's very important to break it down for your team. It's very important to communicate, which means I think it's very important to listen. All right. It's very important to share best practices. Don't reinvent the wheel. People are smart, and hear them out, share best practice. That's the best way to do it. All right. So how to sell finally? I'm going to keep it short, but prospecting, I don't know how many of you have heard this term, but it's very important to prospect, which is whom to sell to once your lead comes in. So what you need to do is basically, when you figured out that there's a lead come in and qualifies to a certain criteria, what you essentially need to do is do your homework on it. Do your homework, use third-party free tools available. In our cases, we use stuff like SimilarWeb, built with APIs and stuff like that, to do our homework before I get to a client. We actually log into a website, figure out, or an app, figure out the kind of communication that they're doing on email, SMS, text, and all of that, then go and talk to a client. So just don't, maybe drop in an email, maybe drop him a text, whatever works for you. But wait some time, do your homework, know their business, then go and pitch to them. Because you'll never be able to sell if you don't know their business, and people take offense. Trust me, globally, people take offense if you don't know stuff about them. um, um, Qualifying leads, right? So thousands of leads that start coming in eventually, or thousands of cards that you have, and you got to qualify, right? Just because you have a card and a lead does not mean you're going to be able to sell, which means you got to do your BANT. I don't know if you guys have heard about BANT. BANT is basically budget, authority, need, timelines. Budget, does your customer have the right budget? Can he own it? I want a Mercedes Benz. I can't own it today, sorry, so I'm not the right customer for a Mercedes or a BMW. Authority, have you reached out to the right guy? Is he a tech guy? Who are you selling to, right? You're selling to product and marketing folks. If I can't get there and can't get to the signing authority, there's no point talking to them. There's no point selling there. Timeline, do they want it now? Do they want it 3 months down the line? Do they want 6 months down the line? Are they at RFP, RFI processes? Wherever they are, you need to figure it out. That's very important. So most important stage before closing is your bank. That's very important. That's where you need to filter it out and focus on a few and close. Understanding personal styles. Wow. So you need to figure out personal styles of people. For example, I talk to product guys, I talk to marketing guys, I talk to CIOs, I talk to CEOs, I talk to co-founders. I talk to different people differently. And also as per their personal styles. How do they behave? How do they interact? What's the body language? Apart from that, what are their functional KPIs and KRAs? Because the way a business guy thinks versus a way a product guy thinks versus a way marketing guy thinks are different. So you need to make sure that you communicate with them there, because otherwise they'll lose the interest, right? Why should they be talking to you if you don't even understand what they do per se? So you need to figure out different styles. Handling objections, you always get objection. Don't go defensive. Make sure you communicate your point well. Make sure you let them know what they do, what you do versus what you can't, and just back off. Let them take a call. Obviously, that'll basically come handy in building trust of a customer. If you don't have a trust of a customer, sale can never help, can never happen for you. Analyze needs, right? That's very important. When we sell a product, globally, what happens is that you don't sell features. You don't sell that my product has analytics. You sell solutions, right? Which means for that, I need to know what the problem is. What is the use case? What is the problem statement? Why am I selling? What is the gap that I need to fill? I need to take that, try and understand and tell him how am I going to solutionize it for him, which means that I uncover the value that my product brings online for them, and then put it in terms of a USP or a product differentiation, which means that how am I better than 20,000 people that he's going to be looking at, right? So that's very important to understand all of this in order to sell, and that's the way to do it. There's no other way to do it, trust me. Closing sales, legal paperwork, documentation. Emails, yes, don't mean anything, trust me. People can back out, uh, deals can go haywire, uh, funding can go haywire when you're trying to raise. Uh, you need to close sales, which means you need to have right kind of paperwork done. You need to have right kind of documentation into a CRM or Excel, whatever you're using for your system, in trying to take what was the need, what were the requirements, what you intend to pitch, what are you going to do, and so on and so forth. Use all of this and transfer it down to your post sales or whatever team you're going to set up. Who's the person or whoever's in charge of actually going to deploy that product and run it for somebody or help somebody run it. So you need to have all of these things in place. Otherwise, sales does not mean anything, because people sell, but unless you bill, there is no point. If you're not making money, there's no point doing business. I'm sorry. So concluding what I had to, do the session on, data never lies, talk numbers, create evangelists, all of this is very linked. So what you need to do is look at data, all right? Which means that if you've done the above things right, you'll have data for yourself, for who's buying, what ticket size is selling in, what's the market feedback, all of that is true. Uh, so yeah, so data never lies. Look inside the data, make sense of your target market. Maybe you went in and you thought about something which is going to go right for you, and you realize that's not the person who's buying it. But all of that will come in from data. Don't be subjective. Don't take subjective calls in life. It doesn't work that way. It's all about data, and data, period, never lies. Talk numbers between your own founders, between your own core teams, between your own sales teams, because it's all about numbers for sales as well. If you are not a good number person, you're not a good salesman. So you need to know exactly what's the pipeline you have, what are you going to closing, uh, what's less in terms of, I need, if I'm making $10,000, I need to have a pipeline which is at least $50,000, because not everything is going to close. So you need to talk numbers, and you need to create evangelists both inside the organization, which is your salesman, and outside as well. Evangelism means that your own team believes in what you're selling, your own product, your own solution, whatever it is. If they don't believe it, they can never sell it. So ensure that they know enough and they're evangelists of your own product. Okay. Never use your sales team as a startup just for selling. You need to use them for all of these things as well, which means you need to figure out, you need to discover market realities. You need to discover the demand for your product or solution, or you need to discover the sales cycle. How long is it generally going to take to close? Because that's how you're going to project money. That's how you're going to close. If it takes 30 days for an account to close for me, it can't happen in 15 days. If
period, because it takes time. That's how the decision making process goes in. All of that is in numbers. So you need to figure all of these as top guys in the companies, as core teams, in terms of trying to take in feedback about the market from your own salespeople, because they're the client facing people and that's what they do. So ensure you get all of that in place. Market dynamics, which are macro, understand and make them aware of marketing. So for example, if I'm marketing automation system or I'm an analytics product, I need to make sure that one is they understand what does that whole sector look like, because you're going to put them there and they're going to turn up fools, because they're going to talk to CIOs, CFOs who've got like what period 15, 20 years of experience, right? So if they're gonna make intelligent conversation, they better know about what they're talking about. So otherwise they're never going to gain respect. If they don't gain respect, they'll never be able to sell. So they need to be aware of all of this, and you need to take a feedback on dynamics as well. So in terms of macro level markets and how that sector performs, you need to keep taking in feedback from your sales team. That's very important. Use this effectively. They are your foot soldiers who actually let you know what's happening in the market. Hustlers, create hustlers out of your team, man. Do it everywhere. Do it for salespeople. Do it for marketing people. Do it for product people. Hustlers are two kinds. People with two qualities. One is they never throw problems at you. They throw a problem along with a solution, a tentative solution for that problem. Two is they know how to figure out situations. You put them in a situation. I don't know whether they'll be able to solve it, but they'll be assistive at least. These are the two kinds of people that you need to create out of the people that join you, and ensure that when you hire as well, make sure that they have some inherent qualities that actually show these kind of qualities. I think I'm going to end it with this. You empower people, rest will follow. You need to make sure you empower them. That's about it. Thank you so much.
Do we have any questions?
My name is Anand. My question is, do you ever get the feedback salespeople are fake?
All the time.
So,
What do you do about it? That's okay. I think you shouldn't worry about it, because what really happens is that when you meet people and when you talk about it, you're trying to sell to them, right? Which means that you're going to reach out for their wallets. And people are not going to take you nicely, right? When somebody's going to try to get out money out of you, you're not the best person in the house. So any which ways, they can feel what they want to. Trust me, if you're a smart person and you know what you're doing, I think everybody puts bet on the people that are smart and know what you're doing. Doesn't matter what people say about them.
hi Apurva, my name is Jaydeep. As a startup, one of the things I've struggled with is how do you set sales targets and sales incentives for your team as you build your team? Because generally, you just want them to sell, but it's very hard to figure out, I should be giving $100 per lead that they close, and how do you define that? So, any thoughts on that would be great.
That's a very, very good question. That's a very good question. I will have a separate conversation in totality with you, but just to give you top level thing, uh, it also boils down on the kind of money. First is what you can afford, because you can't spend $20 when you have 10, right? That's a reality of life. So you need to figure out, uh, first of all, how much you have, all right, and make it proportional, all right. When you create a structure for a sales guy, right, make sure you at least do 70-30 or a 60-40 in terms of fixed and variable. Because if a person who's getting into sales does not just want to talk about, at least from a startup perspective, and he's coming in here, he knows you're not the settled guy, right? He knows all of those things, which means he's confident about closing, right? Which means he's confident about selling. So he needs to be able to make that 30-40% that he should actually command. So if you need to split the salary in that perspective, 30-40% of the component depends on what is your pocket to pay out to your salespeople. I can actually have a separate conversation and probably telling you it's a bigger, larger topic to talk about.
Yeah, hi Purva. Yeah. So my question is like, it's good for you that you mentioned that you've been getting leads. So the customers, you're pulling the customer actually. You don't have to run for customers. What is your take wherein you actually have to push the product? The client doesn't know whether he needs the product or not.
Well, that's a typical India problem.
And secondly, I would just like to know any challenge in the sales process. Like, let's say if you are into a completely new sector, new product, you have no connects, you don't know anybody, but you want to sell that product. It's a B2B case, SaaS product only, let's say.
Fair. Um, 3-4 questions actually in that. So in terms of when it's obviously it's very hard to start getting in inbound leads, and I understand how much effort it takes in. But I'll tell you one thing: the best way to start getting them is create content, and it's not hard to create content. Trust me. Uh, Even your salesman can write how he sells. Two, what is the best partner that you have on board, and just try and capitalize what you did for that person and create case studies. That's how you eventually start getting inbound sort of leads, because you have as much money any which ways to spend on ads and so on and so forth. Second piece is when you don't have inbound leads, outbound pieces, you need to understand that first you need to figure out what are these 10, 15 top people that you can sell to. All right. Connect so right to, you can have, network well around that sector and so on and so forth, right on LinkedIn. And it's not going to be easy. The first ever somebody comes back to you and says that I'm going to do it, first of all, it takes a while for this to happen. All right, from an outbound perspective, which means that it's going to take tons of efforts in writing emails. And focus on a couple of guys, don't try doing everything. Focus on a couple of top guys you think you'll be able to make an impact. First deal, don't do it for free. Do it for the negligible cost of it. Don't do it for free. Tell him that I just need my cost to sustain. All right. And reach out over emails, reach out over LinkedIn and do all of that. But just focus on 10, 15 of those clients that you can sell to. It's a hard pitch in totality, but it takes a while to do it. But I think if you're a salesperson, you need to have a knack. And when you write what you write, ensure you talk about solutionizing, which means that research that guy, as I mentioned, when you write the content, what you're sending is extremely important, which means that research the guy and see what problems can your product solve, and then differentiate that in your correspondence with that person. That will give you results in totality. Just don't plain simple email saying I'm the best company, I do that. Nobody's got the time. There are 20,000 people. And please play on the subject lines of the email. That's very, very important. I think everybody pulls the email down and just swipes it left or right, at least sees the subject line. So ensure you talk precise on those subject lines, whether on LinkedIn, whether on anywhere else, per se. I think that's the way to do it. Did I miss any more questions on that? So what I was saying is, I think that's the last one. I've only taken too much time. But 25, 30% delta is basically once you've set up, you know what your product is, this is selling decently well, you're fighting out the competition, and you're able to demand a certain price, all right, as compared to the price that your competition is selling at. Ensure that you price it in such a way, demand that kind of a money that's at least 25 to 30% more than your competition. Aim for it. Whether you can succeed or not is a different thing. But if you got to make money in long term, you need to also figure out not only product differentiation, but the kind of delta royalty or money that you command on a good product. But the prerequisite is that you need to have a good product first of all.
Thank you so much, Apurv. And I'll request my team to please collect the sheets, the puzzle sheets that you guys have. All right, thank you so much. We will invite our next speaker, Ajay Subramaniam, who's a director at Zone Startups, and he will talk on Sailorholics.
Hi everyone. Good evening. So how many startups in the room? How many were working for another large company or just employed somewhere else? Okay. How many founders in startups? Great. So my name is Ajay Ramasubramaniam. I run Zone Startups India. I have my colleague with me, Niranjan. He was here with me. Yeah, there you go. So Niranjan runs our accelerator. So just a very short introduction. So Zone Startups, based out of Toronto, Canada. We run venture capital funds. We run early stage accelerators. But interestingly, we also run corporate innovation programs and corporate accelerators. So if you're wondering why someone who runs accelerator is here to talk about sales, because we also work closely with corporates and we sell into them to set up innovation programs and corporate programs which generate revenue for us. So we definitely do have a sales function in there. Uh, so I've just titled it Salesaholic. So how many of you here who love sales? Love your customers. That's much better. Okay. So yeah, it's a very, so I have a proper presentation. It's about 20 slides. I'll try to rush through it, but at any point, if you want to stop, ask questions, do that, because I'm sure Apurva spoke about a few of the things. I mean, if you're in sales as a function, even if you look up general random stuff out there, more or less it would cover very basic kind of fundamental stuff. So there is no magic or no mantra to it, but if you love your customers, you'll be able to sell well. So reaching to your ultimate goal, which is the customer who you're going to sell into, it involves a journey, and the journey has multiple steps in it. So the first and foremost thing, uh, so whether you're a B2B product, whether you're a B2C product, or you're running a store out there on the street, the first and foremost thing is to understand if there is someone who's having a problem which you're trying to solve. So identifying the potential customer that has a problem that needs a solution is the first and foremost step. Rather than building something and hunting out there, if there is someone who's going to be a buyer, who's going to be a customer, that's never going to happen. So the first thing is to identify a potential problem statement, who is your potential customer, and identifying what exactly the problem statement is or problem area is for which you're going to attempt to solve or bring a solution. Once you do that, the next step in the journey is getting them to discover, getting this person or this organization which has a problem statement to discover your product or what your business is as a solution to their problem statement. The next step as you go along is to get them to research, ask questions about your product and see how and where it fits in so that they can make a very precise decision. And then the final one is where they actually take a decision to become a customer and start using your product. So whether you're B2C, whether you're B2B, irrespective of what you're building. So this journey is something that is going to be pretty much standard just across if you're looking at sales as a function, and these 4 steps will have to be followed in one way or the other. But let us look at the reasons why startups fail. One of the biggest reasons is that most of the folks out there, and this is not just in the Indian context, but anywhere in the world, is that startups, especially when you have tech founders and people who come from a technology background and who are building a product, is that they're so enamored by the whole technology aspect of it, or the coolness or the sexiness of the tech involved, is that they completely forget the point that there is someone out there who has a problem. He's not interested in how cool the technology is, or whether you're using AI or machine learning or blockchain or whatever it is. That poor guy is looking for a solution to the problem that he's facing, right? So the one and only area and the last area where startups fail selling into larger organizations or any kind of organizations which are their customers is that they fail to understand that there is someone out there who is just seeking a solution. So instead of having jargon based mission statement or elevator pitch which says that, hey, we are a cloud-based, intelligent, sales, automation, AI, blah, 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 whatnot, that guy is just looking at a software which helps him or her as an organization to solve a particular problem. So as simple as that. So no need to use big jargons, big terminologies, because that's what happens most of the times. It has to be as simple as, this is the problem that I'm solving. Once you get that right, the buy-in is there right away. At least the intent is there to align, intent is there to engage, and then the journey kind of begins. So get your messaging right is the first and foremost step that you need to kind of think about. So rather than building out a great mousetrap without anyone ever discovering that there is this new fancy mousetrap out there, so most of the time startups fall into that trap themselves. That they build something and they start looking out for stuff which no one knows that exists out there, or if it is solving some real problem. So, and most of the people who have built successful products, including the likes of someone like a Salesforce, is that products have always been built with customers. It has never been the case where a product has been built and Apurva spoke, and even if you look at someone like a Web Engage never built out a product and then started hunting out for customers. No one would. If you look at someone like a Clever Tab, all of these guys who are the former Burp Mafia, all of these guys built products with their customers. They never built out a product and then started hunting for their customers. So probably 50 or 60% is where the product story ends. After that, it is the problem story or where the customer kind of takes off and you're kind of working together hand in glove. It's only then that the actual buy-in comes in, people start then budgeting, people start putting money where their mouth is, people start accepting what your product is. So it has to be built with the customers, and especially for B2B products, you don't need to build the the great final product, which is version 5 of the product before you go to the customer. No, even if you have a basic kind of an edition or basic kind of a version of your product, which is functional, which is able to address the main problem for which it has been created, go out there, get people to use your product, get them validate your product, let them use and tell you what exactly is missing, what exactly they need, what functions it is performing, what it is not, because they know what their problem is and they know where you would exactly fit in. And never try to be someone who is just solving a small piece of the puzzle, because the larger guys are always there. They can integrate backward, they can integrate forward. So never be a problem solver for the moment. It has to be keeping in mind the longer term kind of vision and what else can you sell into that customer once you get a foot into the door. So for that, you need to work closely with the customer, understand what their problems are, and then kind of go the whole hog. Technology is only an enabler. So whether B2C or B2B, irrespective of which industry you're catering to, technology is just going to be an enabler. It will help you go the distance. It will help you expand geographically. It will help you expand across industries, but it's only being an enabler. It is not the ends to the problem statement. So how do you get to the final stage, which is the customer? Someone has signed up, someone is willing to pay $0.99, $99, $9.99, whatever it is. What actually gets to that stage when someone actually signs up to be a customer? There is again a process to it. So everyone is not your customer, right? So first step is identifying target, because for you, for anyone who is a startup, anyone who is a business, anyone who's a company, the globe is the horizon. If you're an India focused business, India is the horizon. All companies out there, I mean, startups will always talk big, but everyone is not your customer, unfortunately, right? So to figure out, you need to do some level of marketing, right? So first and foremost is to be able to understand your target market or your target audience. Who is actually this target market that you're going to sell into? Because once you have done that, then you will kind of go to the next step of converting some of them into leads. Then you will go and show the product or do a demonstration or give, if it's a freemium product, allow them to use it for a while. And then finally you get to the opportunity stage where you're actually going to convert them into some sort of a customer, a paying customer, right? So companies could, so imagine yourself to be company X building a product, and you might think that the whole uh, India market, as far as B2B environment goes, whether it is BFSI, retail, whatnot, is your potential target audience. But then you will need to do some level of research to understand or get into a finite zone of who exactly is going to be a customer. And you could use some basic kind of criteria, basic kind of elements to arrive at that. Like, what kind of employees within the organization would be the right fit for using your product, or why would they want to use your product, to be able to even arrive at that. Because a lot of times the purchase decision or someone signing off checks, someone making the decision to buy the product might be very different than the function within the organization which is actually using your product. To even be able to getting to that stage, to know who the customer is, a lot of folks, they completely fail. They start talking at different levels within the organization, talking to different people, and it just goes nowhere. It's a waste of time, resource, money, and different things. So the first thing is, who is that employee within the organization or set of employees in the organization who is going to be a target audience for your product, to be able to identify that. The second is to be able to understand that is the business big enough to even be in a position to make use of your product. Because a lot of times you see B2B startups giving freemiums to another set of startups. I mean, with no offense, you might have 50 startups using your product, but they probably not are not your target market, right? So you don't want to validate your product with someone who eventually is not going to even pay you a rupee a month, who potentially is not going to validate you for bigger businesses. So identify the right kind of businesses with whom you want to try out your product, right? And if they actually have a size of business which can afford to use your product, afford not only in terms of paying you, but being able to deploy resources internally to make use of your product, right? classic example. So if you look at lead generation, if you look at softwares which are providing business intelligence, take example of someone like say a Traction. How many of you know Traction? Yeah. So Traction basically is the kind of Bloomberg for startups. Okay. They give a lot of information about startups in terms of the competitor analysis, the kind of founding team, the description of the product, and so on. They send out emails to all investors. They send out mails to a lot of angel investors, to accelerators, incubators, whoever is looking at intelligence from the point of view of the startup ecosystem, right? So just like they would send to anyone else, they send to us as well. The conscious reason why someone like us has not subscribed is not because the information they provide is not relevant, very relevant. But if you don't have a resource who is going to be dedicated and working just on that piece of information to be able to analyze and actually draw some kind of inputs which the business can make use of, it's an absolute waste. So it's not a question of spending 20,000 rupees a month or 30,000 rupees a month or whatever the subscription is, but it is more of, is it relevant for me? Do I have a resource who I can put dedicated full time on that platform to actually make use of it and leverage it to the extent that one can use it? So it comes down to that. The third thing is the budget. No corporate will ever disclose their budget to you. They'll say, you send your pricing, you send your costing, and we look at it. But honestly, every corporate, whoever wants to buy whatever product, they have a budget. Just that they want to hear it from you. They don't want to disclose what kind of levels that they go. If you're able to get to an extent, and that all comes about how strong your sales skills are, or how good your sales force is, which is meeting with XYZ as a corporate, to be able to draw out some kind of numbers from them. Because they always will have numbers that they will never disclose to you. So to arrive at that, maybe you need to talk to say 50 companies. So the broader target that you have zoomed in on might be 50 companies or 50 businesses that you talk to, out of which some might then percolate down to actually become your potential leads or your prospects or whatever you want to call them. So they come down the funnel, right? So once you do the first part and you meet with 50 companies to draw insights on point A, B, C, then you come up with another set of analysis or insights based on your market research or your engagement, that the right kind of customer for my product is a company with minimum of X employees. So maybe maybe the product is not useful for entities with less than 20 employees, but someone having a minimum of 200 employees is the right kind of fit for my B2B enterprise software. Or it could be someone with a minimum turnover of X dollars who would be able to provision for budget to spend on this product, because I don't want to give you the product for free for the rest of my life, right? So I should be able to arrive at some number that company with turnover X would be the right fit. Or it could also be that company X also makes use of product XYZ, which are also enterprise grade softwares or SaaS products or whatever, the same bracket that I am in as a company. And there is a precedence that they're using it. So the chances of them looking for other products in other business units or other problem areas is also high. So I don't need to sell that why they need to use a cloud-based solution. They're already using 3 of them for other functions. And I am another one, not encroaching on the areas that they are in, but still there is a precedence of, I don't have to teach the company the benefit of a cloud-based software or a solution. They're already using it. So once you arrive at somewhere in one of these 3 brackets, that is your actual target on which you're going to zone in on, right? So everyone who fits into this criteria, ABC and say XYZ, has the potential to become a customer. So at least you're now working with a finite number rather than saying that the market landscape is $200 trillion and I'm going to kind of run after all of that. No, probably here will come with, okay, $20 million is what I'm running after. So once you identify targets, and once you kind of deep dive and start getting more information from them, then you get to the stage where you actually have leads, right? So you can sit with database. The database is not your lead, but when you kind of deep dive into the database and talk to those 2,000 people on that, and you arrive at 200, probably they are your potential leads that you can go after, right? So you can either do A, and I have known people who have purchased lists of leads either on CDs or other PDF files and whatnot. Most of it is redundant data. People who have collected business cards at different conferences, they have kind of bunched it together. So 7,500 leads or 75,000 leads, whatever. But not only can it be expensive for startups, but many of the times the data is redundant. The person has moved on. They're no longer there, not only in that organization, probably they're one in the room, they're doing a startup. So they're not relevant to you anymore. So the other best option is finding the leads yourselves. And for that, you have to put yourself out there on the field, expose yourself, talk to people, go to events, network. How many of you in the room have networked with others in the room? Yeah, you also should. I mean, there are 5 of them, but others should also network. And Meenal was talking about that. So it's very important. So a lot of people will say networking is like almost not working because you're seen everywhere, but actually networking helps a lot. So even someone who's worked for like 2 decades, I think it's the network that helps her. So I'm sure that if someone has just been around for 2, 3, or 5 years, you definitely need to network and build that 20-year of database, right? So the best way is finding leads ourselves, and that can only come by human to human interaction. Human computer interface is fine, but human human interface is more important. So Apur was talking about this. So you have outbound marketing and inbound marketing. This is basically for generating your set of leads. So outbound marketing is more old school, probably done even now, but still it is a little bit old school, especially if you're a B2B startup, if you're lean in terms of number of staff, number of team, whatever. I guess the modern way of marketing is more of inbound. You need to get calls, you need to get people reaching you rather than you trying to go out there and find out who the hell is my customer. So you could still do outbound marketing. Probably when you become a web engaged, probably when you become a little bit bigger, you can spend a little bit on outbound marketing. You can do mailers, you can do cold calls. People know you, they'll respect you, they'll talk to you because they know that you're out there as a product, someone else is using you. You could get into sponsorship. So again, eyeballs. You could do advertising, you could do banner ads. But for more of a lean, mean kind of way to generate leads, I guess it has to be more of inbound marketing. Again, lot of repetitiveness because Apurva spoke about this. So how many of you in the room who are actual founders of startups create content by blogging, by participating in opinion polls and stuff? Yeah. So writing makes no harm to your business. You get hurt, but at the same time, you can always like pitch in with your small story of your startup or your technology for people to know about your product. So it's more of a softer way of selling, but at the same time, you're creating a lot of content. So that will kind of increase traffic. भाई ये कौन है ये इतना लिखता है, ये LinkedIn पे डाल रहा है, ये यहाँ पोस्ट कर रहा है, कोरा में लिख रहा है, मीडियम पे लिख रहा है, लोग आएंगे. People will come to the website, right? They'll have a look at what kind of product you're building. You could also like conduct webinars. So you don't always need to be on a bigger kind of a forum like speaking at conferences, whatnot, but you can always conduct webinars. So if you bring certain level of domain expertise, subject matter knowledge, you can always conduct webinars and get people to attend. You're disseminating knowledge, but at the same time, you can also always chip in with a little bit of information about your product. So I'll give you an example. So one of the startups which is a part of our portfolio, uh, uh, Firmway. So these guys are accountants by profession, by qualification, and they built an intelligent cloud-based solution for reconciliation, for auditors, for audit requirement. So when GST was being implemented, last week they conducted a session for small, medium enterprises and startups to understand about what is this whole GST thing. But at the end of it, they took like 5 minutes to talk about what Firmway is as a product, but the room had 80 people. They came to hear you for the knowledge that you were giving. But even if you get those 2 or 5 minutes to talk about what your product is, people are not going to run away because they were there for better part of 90 minutes. So 2 minutes does not harm them. But it allows you to tell them a story, right? It allows them to hear that you're knowledgeable. You know about the subject matter, but you're not trying to sell. But at the end of it, if you chip in with 2 minutes of what your product is, it's not going to make any harm to your business. You should also consider writing stuff. So especially if you're either doing some research based stuff or there is IP led kind of stuff, or if it is if you're first in the lot building something which has not been there, I guess it does no harm to participate in more of educational seminars and conferences where you can get your papers published, right? So especially if you're doing something which is core IP. So maybe if you're doing something in say blockchain in fintech, and you know that apart from uh, XYZ use case, there's no one who's actually built something using blockchain. Why not attempt writing some kind of research if it is like really concrete and try to get it published at an educational kind of a seminar or a conference, right? You'll still have people hearing. If nothing else, people will want to work with you, intern with you, partner with you, whatever it is, but try attempting writing some papers, research papers if you're doing IP-led stuff. The other thing is trying to speak at conferences, speak at events, right? So you may not always be the biggest draw in a large conference, but you should keep your eye open for conferences which make sense to you and try and get in there as a speaker to not sell your product, but to disseminate the kind of knowledge that you have. So a lot of times if you try to sell your product, people might not really want you to be there unless you're a sponsor or someone. But in many cases, if you bring a domain knowledge and you're willing to share that, I guess having speaker roles is kind of a good option. And the last one is is content. So blogs can be one way of content, but at the same time, if you participate in polls, if there is industry-led discussion happening, giving your views on that, but just being heard, even if that's like 20, 30 words, like couple of sentences, but just the content that you're able to create, and if it gets published, getting it as a traffic back onto your feeds, on your website or wherever it is. So creating content is always good, and you should spend some time on creating some kind of content. So what that will do eventually is it will act as a pull factor. So the first one, the outbound one, is more of a push factor. Whereas if you're a lean team, if you're a small team, many cases the push factor may not necessarily work. Also in case of startups, push factor may not necessarily be positive. Because what push does is that it gets you eyeballs. When it gets you eyeballs, it results in hits on your website. But a lot of times, if you're not geared up to it, your website can crash. And this has happened in case of many startups. There have been startups in the travel and tourism space. There have been startups in the grocery space, which have entered into multi-million dollar kind of media engagements. What it did, it's created a lot of eyeballs for them. It created more traffic than what they could handle. And eventually both the companies kind of went out of business in a very short span of time. So use a pull factor, and when people actually come to you, and they would be coming to you because they want to access information, they want to access knowledge, they want to kind of enlighten themselves. So eventually then you can ask them for some information, because they feel that whatever you have shared, maybe if you have written a paper, maybe it could be a small 4-pager PDF that you put out there, maybe you allow them to access a page. But if they want to access the whole content, you can say, hey, share your email address, share your mobile number, whatever it is, because that is going to go into your actual funnel, which you can then kind of start try to convert. So in order to say and keep track of leads, we need infrastructure. So very early stage startups, it might not be necessary, but once you grow to a certain level, you need to have some kind of infrastructure. The Excel sheet may not, the Excel sheet, even if you have 1 million customers, is going to work. But at some point in time, you need to have something which is more than an Excel sheet, which is more dynamic, which team members can kind of make use of. It can be constantly kind of improvised on. There can be more information in different formats which can be uploaded so that everyone can be in sync. So one of the ways could be to have a CRM software. So every time you talk to a lead, right? So whether it is you as a CEO, as a founder, or someone who is down below, who is kind of your sales guy or account executive or whoever, but every time they have a conversation, you can update it. So even if someone says कि यार 3 हफ्ते बाद कॉल करना, वहां पे कम से कम होगा कि मैंने बात किया है और 3 हफ्ते बाद बात करने बोला है, मैंने मेल भेजा है, उसने रिप्लाई किया है, मेल भेजा, रिप्लाई नहीं किया, whatever it is. But having a software which kind of records everything, so that you know over a period of time what is hot. So when eventually the company becomes a little bit bigger, and you have a leadership team who is not involved on a daily basis on each of the lead, you at least have a dashboard view of कि हो क्या रहा है, कि इसमें से मेरे को तो ये पता चल रहा है कि हाँ कम से कम 500 लीड है अपने पास, लेकिन उसमें से कितने जो है वो जेन्युइन है, शायद 5 है, 50 है, 450 है, आई डोंट नो. But if you have something which is as a software can give you a bird's eye view, it always helps the founder or the leadership team. The other thing is the marketing automation software. So when you start creating a lot of content and people start coming onto your platform, start visiting your website, you start getting more hits, you need to, you probably might end up with 10,000 leads, you might have 20,000 leads, but you can't send personalized email to each one of them. You cannot send personalized content to each one of them. For that, you need to have a marketing automation software, which kind of is a suite of multiple products or multiple channels that you're using for marketing, right? For your outreach or whatever. So having a system which kind of is your marketing strategy or is automating your marketing strategy. The third one is having a reliable kind of phone system, because initially you can have your customers, your leads on your mobile phone. An individual can have, if you have 10 sales guy, each one might have 50 customers or 500 customers or whatever. But you cannot always rely just on the mobile phone to make calls. When you start doing more of inbound sales, you need to have more of a reliable system, which probably is something like an Exotel or something similar, but where you're making use of more of a voice over internet kind of thing, where you can be assured of the quality. Maybe you could use other stuff like say a WebEx or whatever, where you're subscribed, where you're making presentations and product demonstrations, and it's not going to kind of be dependent on just the internet or the phone line, which can probably drop off sometime. So you need to invest in the infrastructure, but that is not needed at a very early stage. Once your company is stable, it has some revenues, you have raised some money, then you can invest in these kind of things. So the next thing is once you have a lot of things happening in the broader kind of marketing area, you need to have metrics. You need to measure it because otherwise doing ton of things and not being able to measure is not going to really pay off, especially if you have invested in a ton of things. So being able to identify how many leads are being generated per day, right? Then going on to which channel is being able to generate more leads for me. One might work, one might not work. You might iterate, you might evolve over a period of time, and that will help you in taking a judicious call that which channel works better in generating more leads. Then you might start monitoring your website kind of traffic, the ranking that you have, how many people come onto your website. You might probably use solutions which allow you to track where people are spending more time, what they're spending time on, so that you can be more targeted in your efforts for marketing, for your outreach and whatever. Email open rates. Again, I mean, globally, email open rates are pretty low. I think it's about 18% or so. But still, I mean, making use of solutions which are out there to know which customer is opening your mail, how many times they're opening, are they even going through your email? So being able to monitor that. The content conversion and cost per channel. So all of this is relevant once you have invested in it, invested not only in terms of money, but in terms of whether it is the infrastructure, whether it is in terms of resources, in terms of time. So when you have a dedicated team just doing that, you should be able to measure all of these metrics because that will help you in becoming a better company and more efficient and more productive. So that brings us to once you have done all of this and you're sitting with a pipe of leads, you're sitting with a pipe of targets, and you're kind of funneling down. It then brings you to the stage of opportunity. So this is a stage where probably you have gone down from the 100 target that you had, you went down to 50 leads, and you kind of spoke with all of them, and eventually you're sitting with probably 20 of them who you think are at the bottom of the funnel who potentially can convert into your customer. So when you head into the opportunity stage, you should have an answer for all of this. So the person you're talking to in the organization should have the budget to procure and deploy a solution. Because if someone is not the decision maker and someone is not the person who is controlling the budget, so he or she is probably not the right person that you're talking to. Maybe you've wasted a lot of time doing that. The second is the person should have an authority to take a decision. So maybe the user is someone else, but this person you're talking to is the one who is the authority saying that कि यार मेरे को ये deploy करके चाहिए बस और कुछ नहीं. I have nothing else to do. I'm just ordering you that this has to be done. So person is authoritative. The third thing is they should have a clear deadline or a timeline कि कब तक ये deploy होना है. Otherwise, people can, I mean, till the cows kind of graze the grass, come home and they go to sleep and go back next day, this will kind of keep going. But you should have a finite kind of a timeline. So even if you are a freemium kind of a product, never give anything for free. I think Apur was mentioning that as well. So one way of even doing freemium is that use it for 60 days at no cost, but 61st day onwards, you pay me retrospect from day one, right? So you should have the balls to kind of tell that to your customer. I mean, there's no harm in saying that because no one is going to be offended by it because you have built a product, you're building a business, so you have the right to ask for money. Because until and unless you ask, no one is going to tell you कि मैं पैसे दूंगा तुम्हें, कोई देना नहीं चाहता पैसे, right? So and they should have a timeline कि 61st day onwards या तो मीटर ऑन होगा या तो मैं यहाँ मीटर बंद कर रहा हूँ. So being able to say that is also something that is required. And the last one is they should have already done some research. So research is not only on your part, but also on part of the customer. They should have evaluated, they should have answers to your questions. So it's not always that the सामने वाला आपको सवाल पूछ रहा है, आप startup हो तो आपको ही जवाब देना है. I mean, you can also ask the person a question. What are the other things that they're considering? Because for you, it will help you in understanding what exactly is the person looking for. So being able to ask them questions and the fact that they have compared your product with XYZ and they have kind of consciously zeroed in on making use of your product, they should be in a position to give answers to that. So once kind of move into the opportunity step, it's then time to kind of involve even the marketing folks because sales and marketing a lot of times can be misunderstood to be the same function. Unfortunately, it's not. But both sales and marketing kind of needs to work together because when you start doing that, then that means you're moving more closer to the funnel, the end of the funnel where you're sealing the deal, right? So the previous slides that we were talking about is all about the marketing efforts kind of that go in to actually converting something into a potential customer and closing the deal. So if you look at sales, so again, I guess Apurva was touching upon a few points. There can be different ways of selling. Different size of organizations use different methods for selling. So the best is, I mean, having automated sales, right? So if you're a B2B or if you're a SaaS product, you shouldn't spend too much on actually having feet on street kind of salespeople. people have to come to your website, they need to kind of opt in, they need to start using it, and 31st day onwards, 61st day onwards, the meter kind of kicks on. So those are like automated sales. So SaaS products are sold that way. B2C products are sold that way. You go on to Flipkart, I like a product, I put it in the basket, I kind of check out, done, sale ho gaya. Outside sales. So outside sales are typically when you're a larger kind of footprint in terms of having sales team. So the Cap Geminis or the TCSs of the world, the big IT companies like the Microsofts and the IBMs of the world, these guys would do outside sales. Typically, someone who is closing a deal with a large organization would be a CXO on both sides. But suit boot mein jaake, I mean, you'll have conversations multiple times, and then you kind of close multi-million-dollar kind of deals. So that is outside sales. The B2B startup way is largely inside sales. You don't need to have a feet on street of 100 people, probably a team of 5 led by your CEO, who is a founder, who's also your chief sales officer, closing deals from the office itself. So stay inside the office, not traveling too much. It is cost effective, but at the same time, you get lots done as well. And you can say, and you can scale. So you're not, even if you're in Mumbai, probably you're selling in Ahmedabad, you're selling in Chennai, you're selling in Hyderabad, Bangalore, multiple places. You don't have the need to set up offices in multiple cities. Whereas outside sales, you have offices where your clients are closer to your clients to have those meetings. So again, once you get into a sale, so just like you were in the marketing, you're having multiple processes or multiple steps. Again, when you're at a sales, you again have multiple steps before you're actually closing the deal or closing the customer. So again, you need to qualify deals. So while on one hand, from the marketing perspective, from a target, you have come down to a lead, here you're actually qualifying leads. So this would typically be more lower end of the sales funnel. So having more like a sales representative or sales account executive who is kind of interacting with the leads, trying to ask them questions. Most of the times the phone is being kind of hung up on them, but the person is like really persistent. The person keeps calling, tries to find more information. Aggressive, not like in your face, but pushy to some extent. And these are qualities that you can't really train someone to be that way. I mean, you'll have people in sales function who bring that to the table themselves, right? So sales representatives would help you qualify the leads generated from marketing, right? The next step is to actually be able to demo and help the potential or prospective customer to discover your product and to engage and solidify the relationship over there, right? So this would be more of a key account executive who has been, so for example, Web Engage might have someone who is focused purely on the BFSI relationships. And he or she might be meeting, talking, engaging with a lot of the prospects who have been funneled and qualified as leads to constantly kind of engage with them. This person would be more of an experienced resource who is able to empathize with your problem statement, able to tell you how or what problem you're facing and how it can potentially be solved. So it's more of a consultative kind of a method. You're not trying to force the sale, but you're trying to make the customer look intelligent, tell the customer that how by doing this, he or she will look good in front of their boss, how they would kind of meet their own metrics for the financial year, how they could get a bonus or a raise. So being able to be very consultative in nature, but at the same time, you're trying to kind of fit your product into the whole problem area thing. And the last step would be closing the customer, which is more like where you're contracting and you're sealing the deal. And this is like officially converting someone to a customer. And at this stage, again, I think Apurva was talking about it. So most of the time there will be resistance or objection to the pricing model, to terms and conditions in the contract. So this would be more of a CXO level kind of a discussion from your end as a startup as well, to be able to kind of handle those objections, to be able to follow up or follow through on the contracts, to be able to close on the contracts by agreeing to terms, by changing terms, whatever is required, agreeing on a price point, agreeing that this is going to be used for next 3 years or whatever it is. Because a lot of times you might get a raw deal signed up for a year, but then you don't want customers just for a year, you want them for much longer. So being able to get into those kind of discussions and negotiations, so it's not about selling, the buy-in is already there, but here you're talking about managing the contract actually. So again, you need to have metrics. Just like in marketing, you have metrics to measure the success of different avenues that you have chosen, channels that you have chosen for your promotions, your marketing, whatnot. So in case of sales as well, you need to have certain metrics, like what are the number of deals that you have won, what was the reason because of which you won the deals. Likewise, deals lost are also equally important because it helps you in kind of realigning your pitch, going back to the drawing board, and if there is a certain kind of pattern, you can help kind of overcome it. looking at the sales cycle can never be like too long. I mean, you read ton of things about, hey, if you're a startup selling to banking industry, you should have holding power for 18 months. No one waits for 18 months. I mean, you're kind of, that is business, that is bread and butter. So you can't be running after one customer for 18 months. So have a very finite sales cycle. So early on, it might be a bit dicey, but after a point, you should be able to kind of narrow down कि अगर यार बैंक को बेच रहे हैं तो 90 दिन के अंदर डील क्लोज होना चाहिए, नहीं तो हम मूव ऑन कर रहे हैं. We are not focusing on the customer. वो दोबारा आएगा अपने पास तब देखेंगे. Also, you should look at the average ticket size or average sales price, the kind of renewal rate, which is very important. So again, this is something that you should try and emphasize at the contract level itself to ensure that you are in with the customer for longer haul rather than just for a year or 6 months or whatever. And closes per rep. So in any organization, the sales guy is your rock star. And once you have the closest per rep, you know who are the guys that you need to like really take care of. So in really good companies, in large companies, more than the CEO, the sales guy is the one who makes much higher amount of money purely on basis of commission. So being able to incentivize the sales guy or the sales rep basis on the number of closures that he or she has done. So that kind of is almost the last slide. So at some point you need to have a convergence of sales and marketing. So even though these are two very different functions in themselves, and in many cases, in case of early startups, there might be a lot of convergence. At some point, even in large organizations, sales and marketing need to be aligned at some point in time, right? And if marketing is able to convert 50 targets to leads and then 25 kind of become opportunities thanks to the sales people, is the sales team even equipped to talk to all of them? Because you don't want to be, the marketing guys will say कि hey, हमने तो हमारा काम कर दिया, हमारे पास 100 लीड जनरेट हुआ था, उसमें से 50 से हमने बात किया और ये हमने सेल्स वाले को दे दिया है, उसने काम नहीं किया, मैंने तो अपना काम कर दिया. So you should never be arriving at that kind of a situation, because as an organization there will be a lot of conflicts. So you should be able to align the goals or the understanding of sales and marketing at some point in time. So the goals should always be connected, and whether it is in terms of the resource alignment, whether it is in terms of time alignment, the goals have always got to be kind of connected. The other one is there has to be an open line of communication, because salespeople at the same time, just like marketing folks can pass the buck on to sales, sales can also pass the buck on to marketing. So sales guys can always say, hey, हमने तो मतलब बात कर लिया है, they'll close the deal and come back, but someone else will get stuck. So there needs to be open line of communication between whether it is product, whether it is marketing, whether it is sales. All of them need to be aligned at different points, and communication should be transparent and open. Sales guys can always overcommit and come back. And lastly, even within the organization, sales and marketing needs to have certain kind of agreement which is on paper or as per policy or whatever it is, so that everything is in black, is on paper, and something that you can always go back to. And if certain metrics are not being met with, then you can always realign. You can always go back to the drawing table and kind of rework it out. So with that, I'll just end it. I love sales, and I can sell till whenever, whoever.
You have the mic.
Yeah, hi Ajay. So I'm going to put a situation in, and if Apurva can also come in. So there's a client, and the client is having two, three verticals, and he's having some problems. And there's this big techie software guy who is providing all the solutions. There's a cute little startup who has identified another vertical function wherein there is a problem, and he has a solution for it. So if you can give the big guy's view, and if you can tell from the startup point view, how can this small startup save his product? Because the client is already in touch with the software guy who is already providing two, three solutions. So how does the software save his product so that it's not copied on, be given by the current vendor?
So what you're trying to understand here is that you talking about how do you win the deal, or are you talking about how do you save your win the deal, right? Not about how do we save your product per se from a deal perspective. Fair enough. So I think we're also a startup and we hear big names. I think one of the names that you saw there was a big boy called Salesforce that we obviously see in our own domain. We hear about Adobe and so on and so forth. We fight with them really hard. And there are places that we won deals as against them. And it's a big proud feeling for us as well. I'll tell you what I do rather than telling you what you could do from your product, because you'll understand your product, your TG, your market better. But what I essentially do, I think as companies grow large, what they lose out on is a one-to-one sort of a connect, because there's so many things that you're dealing with in volumes.
and you're already a big name. So once one guy is important, but not that important. But one guy for a startup can be a really huge guy. All right. So what I would intend to say is uh, deep dive into his problem. All right, whatever problem you're trying to solve, make an extra effort. Maybe sit down at their offices if you had to, because if that's the only customer that you got to win. All right, and I'm focused because it's very important to focus. Serve him well. Give him one of the major important parts of servicing is the tact. What is your turnaround time? How quickly do you respond to an email? How quickly do you respond to a phone call? All of these things on a larger level make a lot of difference. So I would go heads on and I would do more than what I could in my capacity to win the deal. All right, that's what I've done with the big boys always. And what I also ensure is, when in my product, in our product Web Engage, we don't send the emails and SMSs as a sender. All right, we use existing out of the box integrations. What I ensure and do, at a lot of places is go a little delta extra and actually recommend what are the best price that I can help a customer buy an email service or an SMS service. A small little delta effort that you help him solve two more things, connect him to the right people, brings a lot of relationship and confidence in the customer. I think all of these things, when you focus on one customer, that's why it's very important to focus. You mentioned about selling to a customer outbound, right? Because you don't have inbound. That's why I said don't do it for everybody. Do it for 10, 15 guys. Focus on one, close it, and go full way. Go a mile extra. People will remember things. That's how it works out for me.
Also, another thing, I mean, if you are able to align your product in the language where you're able to explain it as a benefit to the customer. So whether you're competing with the TCSs and the IBMs of the world or whoever it is, I guess as long as the customer is able to understand the benefit that however small, incremental, whatever it is, like Apur was mentioning, if you're able to talk about the benefit rather than the product or technology, I guess that is something that will help you clinch the deal. Also, the other thing is the product should never be, so like I said in the presentation as well. So we come across a lot of B2B or enterprise solutions out there which are solving a problem, but it is a kind of a gray area because if you're looking at say a scale of 1 to 10, so from 1 to 5.5 there is someone else doing something, and 6 to 10 someone else is doing that. This is the 0.5 that no one is touching. So either the guy who is doing the first 5.5 can either increase their scope and do that, or the person who is doing 6 to 10 can kind of do a little bit of bend backwards and do that. There might be a reason why they're not doing it. So if you take, so if you were to look at it in terms of some kind of a context, if you look at wallets, right? So for a very long period of time, banks never got into it. Why? The biggest wallet that anyone can have is a savings bank account. Anyone. So whether you're employed, whether you're a business guy, whatever, the biggest wallet that you have is a savings bank account, and that is with your bank. What was the reason why the banks didn't build wallet first? Why did someone else, like whether it's a Citrus or whoever, why these guys built out the wallet? Probably the banks didn't feel, जब सर के ऊपर पानी आ जाता है तो सब आदमी खड़ा हो जाता है जितना भी बड़ा business है, right? People wait, they want to play the wait and watch kind of a game, right? So even in this case, so if your solution is solving only a small piece of the bigger puzzle, maybe it is not lucrative enough for someone to build a product for that. It is just about turning on the switch. Okay, they have a foot in the door, it's an existing customer, there is leverage that they have, there is a trust that they have. So why are they not doing it? So you also should kind of introspect and see how big is the problem is, or you kind of widen the scope of your product to kind of run into some of the other functions that someone else, whether it's a Microsoft or Adobe, is kind of selling into, and see what is a bigger chunk of the cake that you can kind of jump onto. So it has to be both ways. So either one, you're able to explain your benefits better to the customer because of which he or she makes a decision in your favor, or two, introspect and see that is the problem so small that it does not really make sense for me to pursue and I'd go after something bigger.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Amazing. My name is Puneet Rawat. I'm from lurifu.com. We're a photo book application. The question is that, so how much time should a startup give themselves to identify any target market, right? I mean, there has to be a definite time beyond which they should pivot. So what could be that?
So most of the time is being able to quantify a number of potential customers. So I think you guys have been, you guys included
Yes, yes.
so that is what I mean, at least 50, 80. I don't know if we gave it out to all, but that is one way of kind of reaching out and seeing kind of, so, right? So if you're a B2C product, probably the alpha version of product. Maybe you do it on a closed one, right? So market research is one thing, but releasing an alpha version of the product for people to take use of it, what they're using it for, will kind of help you better. Maybe you spend at least 3 to 4 months kind of researching and 3 to 6 months when you're doing the whole work. I mean, it's not just uploading kind of effort, but really spending time doing that.
So one last question. You spoke about startups crashing servers. So are there any case studies around that? I mean, what kind of traffic? Where have they gone wrong? Or what marketing channels have they used? Because as a startup today, I have a very lucrative product. The pricing is amazing, but still the challenge is to reach out to people because monetary is the main challenge. So when you do not have enough funding, you do not have enough awareness reach. So how does a server crash?
Folks from
Yeah,
AWS and
let's do that. Yeah.
IBM or whoever. I mean, these guys will definitely be helping you because another reason why. So especially if you're whether you're a B2C or B2B, I guess the traffic is something that you need to always be wary of. Whether you're kind of doing outbound marketing, whether it is by word of mouth, social media, whatever it is, you need to be prepared for it. So I guess AWS, IBM, Microsoft, Google, all of these guys, they do conduct session which helps you in scaling up your architecture. I'm sure they have case studies as well, given that they work with big guys. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ajay. That was a very insightful session. I think we can all agree to that. That brings us to the last speaker for the day. Sure.
So if anyone of you is a startup over here and just want to like, Vinay is our guy, I'm heading up, but we can also talk to Praveen who's sitting right there. So he's one of the startups from our accelerator. So if anyone is a startup, anyone needs help at any point,
All right. Now I would like to invite Sahil Vaidya, who is the co-founder at Minimalist, and he will talk about content marketing for sales. On a personal note, I think if any one of you follow Minimalist on Facebook, you will find they have pretty amazing campaigns going out there.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Sahil. A very quick introduction about myself. I passed out of IIT in 2016, but I had already started up in college. And today, I think all of the co-speakers have given you a good deal of knowledge about how to do sales and what are the specifics of sales. I'm not going to talk about how you could do sales for your company in an outbound way. I have built this company in a very inbound fashion, only through the power of content, and that is exactly what I'm going to talk about today. Our philosophy at the Minimalist. So, just a quick introduction about the company. It's a design and digital firm. We help other companies with services like branding, digital marketing, and social media, web app UI UX. But the way we started was very different. I was just getting bored of engineering in IIT, and I decided to start a Facebook page by this name. And the ideology was very simple. We would take social issues all over India and we would highlight them in a very simple and witty manner. And that was the only idea. We were in our college rooms. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any clients, of course. But that is how we begin. And that is literally what we did. We started a Facebook page, and that is what I'm going to show you. But before I show you the stuff that we created, I just want to walk you through our story. So in August, when I was sitting in my college room, I started this Facebook page. In a month, we actually won a very big design award, which sort of gave us the confidence that we could do something in this business. Going forward, we started getting clients when they saw the work that we were doing on a Facebook page. Our Facebook page started going viral. There were a lot of likes, and clients saw that work, and they said that if you're designing for yourself, you're designing for fun, maybe you could do that for us too. And that is how we got our first customer, without any marketing, without any business development. And that is how we set up our company in May. We were fortunate to reach over 10 million people through our quirky content, and also crack more than 100 clients in like less than 1 year. So all of that has happened only through the power of content. And I'm just going to walk you through some of the content that we have created and how it has really helped us. So I believe that while business development sales is really good for generating business, I think content is something that people don't pay much attention to, but it is something that can really take your startup to the next level. Uh, So I'm just breaking it down into three parts. First, I'll show you the kind of content we created and how it helped us generate business. Secondly, I'll show you how brands can do social media in a way that can generate a huge amount of traction and consequently a good amount of sales. And then some bit of how you can use controversy to sort of get in the limelight and get a lot of leads for yourself. So to begin with, I'll just show you some of the content that we created, right? And uh, the idea was very simple. I had a designer, a co-founder who used to love designing, and I used to love writing, humorous stuff. So we just decided to combine that and come up with content that could sort of grab a lot of eyeballs. So I'm going to show you what content we created. So uh, first, this is a creative that we made on Martyrs Day. So if you look at it, it's comparing an Indian soldier to Batman. But if you look at it a little more closely, you'll see a Batman logo hidden in the white space in the center. And this is the kind of content that really is missing right now. Content that is very thoughtful and makes people think. And that is what really helped us differentiate from everyone who was creating, a lot of jokes, memes, designs, because people really liked this stuff. They wanted stuff that would make them think. So this is just one example. I'll show you stuff that we did on the go as events were happening, as trends were happening. So Father's Day. There was Father's Day. Everyone posts very random WhatsApp forwards, SMSs, the same old shit on Father's Day. What we decided to do was, do a very simple design, and this thing really went viral and caught up on social media. That got us a lot of traction, and people used to like this a lot. The quirky style of communicating things in a very simple fashion. So again, after Father's Day, there was an anti-smoking. There was some campaign around anti-smoking. There's an anti-tobacco day, and I know, I know a lot of you smoke, and a lot of people try to convince you not to smoke, and it's very hard. You still smoke. So we decided to, create something that will hit you really deep down inside, and it is this. And this is the kind of content that really, really catches up. People like sharing this because it is provocative. I know I shouldn't keep this slide on for a very long time, so I'll just move on to the next one. And the next one is something that we did to, highlight how media in our country highlights absolutely bullshit news, how they, anything becomes breaking news. So to highlight that in a very satirical way, we created this. And again, when you sort of start creating content that is edgy and provocative, people will really love it. So looking at all of this stuff, companies started feeling that if you guys are doing it just for fun, and if it is gaining tens of thousands of likes, why don't you do it for us? We'll pay you, you do it for us. And that is literally how we set up a company. We started working for clients. So that was just a brief show of content. I'll show you more. What other things we did was, take insights from culture and develop, content out of that. For example, I'll show you one design that we created specifically, with regards to the problem that women find it very unsafe in the country, and there are a lot of rapes, molestation cases. So, to highlight that in a very different dark humor fashion, we created this. Everyone knows Agla Station. So, I mean, just to take a very quirky take on it, but in a dark humor fashion. And this again caught a lot of fire on social media. There were a lot of people talking about it. There were some people abusing us also, like how can you use dark humor and all of that. But at the end of the day, everything is publicity for you. This got a lot of attention from marketing managers in a lot of different companies, and they reached out to us saying that, our brand is also quirky. We need communication like this. Why don't you work for us? Uh, Next, there are a lot of holidays, days of and public events where brands try to do some subtle messaging. For example, Diwali. Every brand is trying to come up with something on Diwali, and it becomes very boring, very generic. I mean, all the wishes and all the campaigns are lost in the endless stream of wishes that people do. But we decided to do something different on Diwali. We created a rangoli, which was a very honest and derived from a very common cultural insight. Again, this was shared widely. This got thousands of shares organically. People started actually creating these rangolis at their home and sending pictures that I actually made this at my home. And this is the kind of contagion that actually helped us generate a lot of leads for our company. So it is very important to use culture when you're thinking of marketing and creating content, because that is automatically going to generate contagion and lead to sales. Now, this was about days that you can predict, like Diwali or say Father's Day, or how you can create content for such days. Uh, there's a thing called trending news. I mean, every day there's something in India that happens. It explodes. Everyone's talking about it, and you need to be right there, and you need to take advantage of those events. So one day Arnab Goswami had resigned, last year, and it was all over the news. So The moment he resigned, the moment the news came out, we came up with something that, in 7 seconds, like literally we posted this in, sorry, 7 minutes. And it was linked to Diwali. So this again got a lot of attention. In fact, from media people also, and some media people also reached out to us when they had a look at this. So this is the power of, leveraging trends. A lot of things are trending. You just need to take advantage of them and create your content. I'm not just saying in terms of marketing. You could come up with blogs. For example, someone rightly mentioned that this GST just got launched. So if you're an auditor service, if you're a financial service, why don't you come up with a blog that talks about GST, or you come up with some content that educates people? Uh, as your content gets shared, it will reach the right people, and that was the thesis. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of startup enthusiasts. So we have also, I have also kept some content that we did when a lot of startup news had gone viral. So I think uh, the news of Flipkart acquiring Snapdeal is doing the rounds these days. So as soon as that hit the internet, we had created this, and this is something that I also personally show to a lot of founders when I sit across the table, and they really relate to this kind of stuff, and they really like, and immediately they're interested in what I'm trying to pitch. And what this content also does, it creates a halo effect. I mean, people immediately start thinking that this is a really smart guy, and whatever he's saying is probably right, because once they see the work that you have done and they start liking the work, they're actually automatically going to pay attention to what you're trying to sell them also. So content marketing is a great way to sort of sell before you actually sell. One more thing that I want to show you regarding startups is when last year, I think Zomato, Flipkart, Snapdeal, Haptic, all of these startups started mass firing a lot of employees. There was a lot of rumors of layoffs and really negative vibe about it. So we created a very interesting design around it. What can you guys read over here? Fired, fired. So that is the cool thing about this design. It has multiple interpretations, and people actually started thinking, started talking. In fact, or some people also read it as tired, which is also true in a sense. And that is the kind of conversations that these thought-provoking designs spark. And again, this is one of the designs that I show every founder, and they love it. Some of them have even kept this at their wallpapers because they live by this thing. And what it does is it keeps you top of mind. So this kind of content really helps you stay on top of mind of the customers, and whenever they feel the need to market, they'll reach out to you. So in fact, this is something that you should do definitely. uh, Keep following the news and keep creating content around the news so that you can be very relevant in the day and age of lot of spam, lot of listicles, blogs coming out every day. Next, I just want to highlight a couple of brands that we did this for. So while this was a case study of how we created content and built our business ground up, we also helped some clients do this kind of content marketing. So I'll just talk about a couple of clients quickly. One is a startup called Chef's Basket. It is actually a food startup, and they sell do-it-yourself ready-to-eat kits of food. And what they primarily target is young college students and people who are going to offices who want good food, but can't don't want to go through the hassle of cooking, or probably are eating bad food. So now this startup said that we want to heavily target college going students, and we want to grab a share of that market. So very simple, what we decided to do is we decided to do some content marketing for them. We had a great insight that college going students hate mess food, and I'm sure all of you have been to colleges, you've had the food at mess, and whenever we talk about mess food, and if we start berating it, you'll immediately relate to it. So for that company, we didn't try to sell the product at all. What we did was we simply made fun of mess food in the content. And what it did was it created a lot of traction among college students. They really could relate to the kind of content that we were creating, because they had been through those experiences. And immediately what it did was it boosted the sales for these guys, because they were getting a lot of leads on their websites. And instead of just marketing your product and ultimately putting a huge amount of budget, what you can do is subtly communicate your messaging and try to get people to come to you, rather than rather than you going to people. And that was the entire idea here. Another company that we helped with this kind of approach was a company called Topper. Topper is for K-12 learning, for 11 12 students, for IIT JEE coaching. Again, they didn't want to market the service directly. They saw the kind of work that we are doing, and they asked us if we could do something similar for them. So what we decided to do was we understood that people in 11 12 preparing for IIT JEE engineering, they could understand physics. They were involved in all those theorems, and they loved Bollywood. So we decided to mix those insights and create some content and campaigns around how Bollywood is completely screwing physics. And this led to a laugh riot among those students, and they really loved these kinds of things because they relate to both these things. And when you mix them up, it automatically makes those boring subjects interesting once again. So they could really relate to this. They went to the website, they started checking out the product, and in a very subtle way, we could get a huge amount of sales without even telling them what the product was, but simply by telling them giving them content that they like to see. So that is the power of content marketing, and that is how every startup can identify unique cultural insights in their particular segment and sort of leverage them to take advantage of the hunger for good content in their target market. Next, the last part that I quickly want to run through is how you can also create controversy. So again, I'm going to show you two examples of startups where we ourselves help them out with some creating some controversy and how that led to a lot of eyeballs and consequently a lot of leads. So first is again Chef's Basket. You all know Maggie got banned last year because of lead content, and that is when Chef's Basket saw it as a great opportunity to capitalize because their product is also similar, but in a very in a much higher price range. So they wanted to distribute some marketing collaterals across stores. So we help them with this, and this is a very catchy and cheeky tagline which says "Take the lead in your kitchen," but it's a very subtle double meaning play, demeaning Maggie because their product was found with a huge quantity of lead. And this was distributed across cities, and this garnered a massive amount of traction because if you do things the thoughtful way, there will be an audience who will like to hear you and appreciate you for the different kind of communication that you're coming up with. Next, the last sample that I want to show you is a content marketing series that we had done for a healthcare startup, and they were all about promoting healthcare. So what we did was we just took a big pot shot at all the big brands that were selling you junk food. So we started modifying the taglines very simply. So we took all the big brands like Amul, Maggie, Parle-G, and we started changing their taglines and putting in some very provocative imagery along with that. So what that did was, people are tagging their friends, who would gorge on these things, people who were, generally talking about fitness and stuff. And it created a huge amount of conversation. And consequently, there were a lot of leads that the company got just because of conversations. People would visit the website and see people would start following them just because, they were doing cool stuff like this. And finally, you have to take a shot at Maggie also. So this is the kind of stuff that we did for those guys. It worked wonders. And in conclusion, I would just like to say that while there are great ways to generate outbound leads, I mean, it's very important to focus on content because you never know how it can reach out to the right people and how word of mouth can get you a lot of relevant leads. Thank you.
Nice work. My name is Anand. My question is about the controversial marketing. What is the legal environment in India for things like the Amul and the Cadbury? In some countries, you might have a lot of problems. I'm not so sure. Actually, I don't know anything, so I'm asking you about what's happening.
Yeah, so there are legal implications, and we told those guys that we have some really controversial ideas and there could be legal implications attached to that controversy. So they said, just go for it because we're anyway too small to be bothering them. So and all publicity is good publicity, so just go for it. We didn't have any formal protection against this, and nothing has happened, fortunately. But it's just that they got a lot of traction from this, and I know it's pretty risky, but those guys are ready to take the risk. We said that we are not taking any responsibility for the content, and they said, yeah, yeah. Those guys were taking the yeah. It was in the contract, so we take care of those things. Yeah.
So yeah, I think I have a question regarding that. That in terms of controversial marketing, how far can you push the line before you get sued?
I don't know. So, in fact, being from from the handle of the minimalist, we have created huge amounts of controversy. Like we have berated, not berated, we have subtly made fun of Arnab Goswami, Shobha De, and a lot of people. So it has always helped us because if someone publicly hates a figure, then you're all set to gain traction. But I mean, we have taken that risk. But now that we have grown into a business that is 2 year old, we have over 150 clients. I think we are slowly toning that down and trying to be very politically correct all the time.
I guess India is still very liberal in these matters.
Yeah, because there's no law enforcement as such. So
Hi, I'm in a very similar space. I'm in the content space. So one of the challenges that I'm facing is one when I'm meeting a client and if I don't have my laptop, how do I pitch?
okay, just take your laptop.
I'm not having my laptop right now, so
Okay, okay. I mean, just probably send your work in advance and go there and sort of show them your work because it's very important to show your work during any pitch.
Any more questions?
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sahil. I think we all know that that was a very interesting session. I just have a couple of announcements. If you guys are aware that last month we conducted Upstart Pitch, it was our flagship event where over 150 startups applied to top investors in India for a round of, like, to get into a discussion for a round of funding. So 10 startups were selected from there and they all had a pitch. The event was on 16th of June. We plan to do those events in the future. So we had Vani Kola from Kalari Capital. We had Amrish Rao from Payu, who's the CEO of Payu. And we had Vikram Vedinathan from Matrix Partners. So those are the kind of investors who were there looking for startups to fund. So I would request that whenever you get a chance, do follow our Facebook page and Twitter because we will be rolling out information about upcoming events. We do events across Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, and so many more cities are coming up. So like, visit our page and stay tuned because we'll have more information about such events coming up in the future. Now I have the winners for the puzzle. One moment, please. Okay, so the first winner is Mr. Sumit Gupta. Is he here? Sumit Gupta, are you here? Yeah, okay, you're the winner for the puzzle. Our second winner is Rajesh Thukral. Thukral, sorry. Next is, one moment, Swapnil Dhotre. And lastly, we have, oh no, we have one more. Ubika Dev. And Tejraj Parab. Now, I would like to request the speakers to please come on stage for just 1 minute. Ajay has already left, but I would like to request the speakers to please come here. And that brings us to the end of this session. Snacks and refreshment are served outside. Please go help yourselves. If any of you guys have any questions regarding payments, please come and find any of us in the black t-shirts. To all our audience who are watching this live, thank you so much for tuning in and have a great evening ahead. Thank you.